So recently I made a video talking about the Hodge twins and how the amazing Lucas did an amazing job going over there to fry their asses on a podcast that will never be released because they got embarrassed that bad. But basically in that video, I want to discuss about when I referenced Catdog. I was basically making an elongated reference to how stupid the Hodge twins were, and I was basically talking about how their combined logic makes about as much sense as the concept of Catdog. Well, today we're going to dive into the anatomy of Catdog, and then we're going to just have our conclusion. Today we are here to discuss the anamorph version of Frankenstein, the scientific abomination known as Catdog. Now, I think you're going to agree with me by the end of this video when I say you had to be a pretty sick and twisted individual to come up with the whole idea of Catdog. Like, the person who came up with the idea of Catdog, and I needed to do a little bit more research on that, and they should be charged with crimes against animals because this is truly animal cruelty. How would you do this to an animal? Why would you create such an abomination? This individual can't shit anywhere. We all assume that Catdog would just eat out of one end and throw up out of the other. That it doesn't work that way. We are going to go through the different breakdowns of this anatomy, and you're going to realize like this person had issues. People thought James Wan was a sick individual for coming up with the Conjuring movies and all the Saw movies. No. That pales in comparison to the person who thought of this idea. I mean, this is way worse than that cat was born with 3 heads. You remember that cat that was born with 3 heads where 2 were dead, and people were like, oh, that cat is cute. No, that cat was not cute. It wasn't cute when it died like 2 days later. Actually, I think it died probably less than a day after it went viral. Hell, that cat wasn't alive long enough to even get monetized, didn't get to even cash in on its ridiculously heinous and sick, freakish nature. So here is a simple breakdown of the anatomy of a domestic dog and a domestic kitty cat. Basic organs: intestines, lungs, liver, heart, neck. Not connected. 2 separate beings. Something that makes sense, at least in most people's eyes. Now here is a structural breakdown of who somebody else thought a realistic cat dog would look like if it was just the skeletal structure here. Now they also apparently were trying to sell some merch on the whole thing, but I would not buy that because that's kind of a weird shirt to buy. But this does look like an accurate depiction of what the anatomy would look like structurally, at least skeletal wise. Now here is a more cartoonish and detailed version of that exact same breakdown where it's skeletal, but now you get to see some of the innards here. You get to see some of the teeth, some more of the bone structure. I mean, you get to see a little bit more with this breakdown. And now clearly this is just a more detailed and digitized version of this where you get a more like cremated version, like it's more claymated, where it seems like it's a little bit more realistic than the last photo that we saw. Now here is a more Japanese depiction of Catdog's breakdown of their anatomy if they were to be in this position that I showed in my last video. A little bit harder to see, and I obviously can't read any of that language, but this would be that breakdown in that language. Now here's the more true Nickelodeon version of this whole breakdown of their anatomy, but unfortunately the words were way too blurry and I couldn't find a detailed high definition version of this photo to actually see what that is. So the next one is actually an even better breakdown. Now here is the more and probably the most detailed breakdown of what Catdog's anatomy would look like, and it is not what you think it is, especially if this is accurate. And this is where I'm like, whoever created Catdog should be locked away forever. I mean, because this person deserves a terrible punishment for putting another animal through such a terrible experiment. Like, I get it, like we had to do some things sometimes, and they definitely use guinea pigs and mice the most, and it's really unfortunate because I mean I'm a person who's not a big fan of mice, as you've all probably realized here on this channel, but I don't like the fact that sometimes they are the ones who are always used for these experiments. Well, we're going to go through this breakdown of Catdog, and I'm going to start with some of the more sophisticated names of the anatomy here that we have, which I'm going to go ahead and break down the very first part, which is the ventriculus. The ventriculus is just known for as gizzards. I mean, that's basically what the main part of Catdog is just more gizzards, which basically means nothing, just guts. I mean, there's nothing going on inside a Catdog. That's why a dog is so stupid. And the next part, the proventriculus. So the proventriculus is the narrow glandular first region of a bird's stomach between the crop and the gizzard. So basically it's just more gizzards. So they got gizzards on gizzards inside a Catdog. There's not a whole lot going on inside of there besides, Basically, if you cut them open, it's going to be nothing but guts. It's really going to reek inside a cat dog, especially if they had some really terrible meals. I also noticed that they said they had a fermentation chamber, which I thought that was really weird because I thought that had something to do with like, air conditioning or something. But it was like a fermentation chamber is an enclosed space used to control the temperature and sometimes humidity for fermentation processes like making beer, wine, cheese, or yogurt. It provides a stable environment to ensure the microorganisms like yeast or bacteria ferment like the contents optimally, which improves the quality of the final product and can shorten fermentation times. So essentially it functions as a refrigerator for their body to keep all the terrible bacteria and microorganisms from turning into viruses, where they have only gizzards inside of them, where I know there's a heart, I know there's a lung somewhere, but that wasn't really broke down in this anatomy, which is really concerning to me. Like, I know they have a heartbeat somewhere, but it's got to be in a better place. Like, I think it's only mostly on cat side, which I mean is like, okay, that's cool. So let's just go through more of this anatomy. I mean, come on now. So you got the mandible on cat side, which is basically the jaw. And then you got the secondary orifice, which is the secondary, entrance for food, which he mostly focuses on water. So the primary orifice is on dog side, which is where most of the food is consumed. So now you had the orbital socket when we're talking about cat over here, when we're just breaking down more of his skeletal structure towards his head. And then obviously we broke down the fermentation chambers already. You see the spinal column there, where it's connected to his dome, which basically keeps him functioning, which I'm assuming if you were to like break cat's neck, I'm assuming nothing would happen to dog. It would just be like he had a limp tail that he couldn't control at the opposite end. Cat's head, I'm assuming, would just drop over. Like, cat could die, I'm assuming, and nothing would happen to dog. Which, I mean, even though you look on the other side where it says primary beat for the heartbeat, which is on cat side, I'm assuming there might be a secondary heartbeat, which means dog's heart isn't as important, which maybe it's better for this animal because maybe a cat's, heart is stronger because they have 9 lives. So maybe that would help out dog when it comes to some of his extra lives where they can't really gather them outside of some plot armor on cat dog. But obviously you see on the inside where they have a lot of waste storage, which I mean, that makes sense considering that pretty much 80% of them is just gizzards on the inside. You see the breakdown of their lower limbs, basically the cat side and the dog side, which I'm assuming they're obviously built different because they're different animals. And they gotta move different, which luckily they always seem to move as one pretty well. They don't seem to struggle. Even though they got 2 brains, it does seem to work out very well when it comes to them having teamwork working together throughout every episode. Now at the top, they obviously break down the nerve cord, which is basically the total spinal cord of this animal here. And I'm assuming if you cut them at a certain point, it would kill both of them. Like, if you cut them right down the middle, I'm assuming both of them would die. But if you cut them too hard on one side, maybe one animal would die and the other one would live. But then it makes me start wondering, how long does each part live without the other one? Does like the body slowly deteriorate and you start getting rigor mortis and start slowing down from the other side if they just die, and then you just start rotting from the other end? I mean, that just sounds like a terrible demise. I'm telling you, this is sick. Being cat dog is hell. Like, they made it seem like it was all cute and cuddly and cool on the show, but it's not. This is an absolute nightmare. This is really sad to see. And I'm glad that I actually got to break this down because this needed to be broke down. I mean, this anatomy is sick, and I'm really upset when I look at this. And tell me how you feel in the comments. Tell me if this, restores some type of nostalgia, or if this just traumatizes you even more, realizing another childhood TV show was actually a sick-minded, twisted fantasy of some wild-ass, probably child predator of a, creator. I mean, that's usually what it was going down in Nickelodeon, and unfortunately that led to Catdog as well. So, yeah. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and see you very soon. Again! So I've gotten to the end of this video, and I've realized once again, I did not come to any resolutions of what happens to the food. Where does it go? Like, Catdog just consumes product after product after product. They have waste storage and gizzards. Now, I know in another one of those like breakdowns or diagrams that it actually showed where there was probably a stomach and a liver. But in the more detailed one, where is it? In most of those breakdowns, it doesn't give you where a stomach or a liver is. And even if there's a stomach and a liver, where are the intestines? Like, in one, you see an intestines, but it doesn't make any sense because there's no exit. At the end of the, intestines, there's the thing at the bottom, the end, the rectum. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you get a tapeworm, you're supposed to be able to pull out all your intestines. They don't have that. There's no exit point. So once again, what happens to Catdog? Like, The anatomy is ridiculous. So like my mom was probably watching this video trying to figure out what the hell is Catdog. That sounds like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. Now, it is stupid, but for a kid, it sounds cool because Catdog, we're stupid as kids. It sounded amazing, but the concept of it is ridiculous. This is an animal that was like this is basically COVID that went sentient. Essentially, Catdog is an animal experiment that went wrong. It went wrong and they put it on TV for everybody to laugh at. And I that's wrong. Still don't know what happens to the food. I'm assuming the black hole is somewhere in the waste storage because I'm still trying to figure out where the hell it all goes. Catdog should have imploded. Catdog should have been on my 600-pound life. That's what Catdog should have been.